It's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 70 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Digital Federal Credit Union, better known by all of us as just simply DCU. And whether you're driving off the lot or refinancing, DCU can help you save on your next auto loan with rates as low as 1.49% APR. So it doesn't matter the vehicle. Whether you want to get a new one or refinance, DCU can help you, and they can give you rates as low as 1.49% APR. And you can learn more at dcu.org/auto. Insured by the NCUA, membership required. Get more details now at dcu.org/auto. I was so excited to hear that Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains was going to be on the show. His resume speaks for itself. Between Alice in Chains, his highly successful solo albums, and all of the other projects that he's worked on, never mind the unlimited list of artists and musicians that he has inspired over the years, Jerry Cantrell is rock and roll royalty. I've had the distinct honor of talking to him and interviewing him and sitting down with him on several occasions, and he is always incredibly gracious with his time. He's so personable and easy to talk to, and if you get him talking about football, well, he doesn't stop, especially if you let him talk about the Seahawks. His new solo album, Brighton, which is his first in almost 20 years, is coming out on October 29th. So recently we had a chance to sit down and talk about the record, to talk about getting back on the road, to talk about his childhood and guitar tone and his inspirations. We talked about songwriting. Of course, we talked about football. We talked about the Seattle music scene, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And one thing you need to know is that we recorded this right before Pepsi and the NFL announced that Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, and Mary J. Blige would be the Super Bowl halftime show coming up in February of 2022. And as you'll hear from the interview, Jerry and I were hoping it was going to be another artist. If you want more details on Jerry, where you can find him online, details on his new album, and if you want to check out the corresponding playlist for this episode, all of that and more is linked in the show notes of this podcast. If you're an Alice in Chains fan, if you're a guitar player, or if you're anyone that just loves rock and roll, you are going to love this episode. So allow me to introduce you to Jerry Cantrell.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your brow on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Cantrell.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm all right.
First thing I got to ask you is where you are.
I'm in L.A. today, but I'll be heading up to Seattle tomorrow.
So you're West Coasting it, so it's still a little early. Are we having coffee?
Yeah, I'm on third cup. Yeah. lifelong left coaster.
Yes. Well, I mean, here on the East Coast, we enjoy it as well. But you guys, it's like it's a whole other thing up in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that's the home of Starbucks. I mean, we like to be caffeinated for sure.
Congratulations on your first solo album in almost 20 years. Why now?
Why not? Why not?
Did it come out of copious amounts of free time over the last 18 months? Was this solo album in the works before COVID?
It's something I was thinking about in 2019 as we were kind of winding down the Alice tour on the Rainier Fog campaign, and I started kind of really collecting ideas and starting to demo stuff toward the very last leg that we did with Born, which was really fun. It was a really fun tour and a great way to wrap up that tour. Started talking with my buddy Tyler Bates and Paul Figueroa, my longtime friend and engineer, and about putting together a record and going kind of demoing out some songs and seeing what I had. And we went through that process for about 4 months, and then went into the studio in March and were able, luckily, to be able to cut all of the basic tracks. So we had the bones of the record recorded right as, about the time we had all shut down and retreat to our corners. But we got the meat and the bones of the record done. So during the downtime, I had plenty to do. And so I'm glad I had that to focus on. And I think that the record is a really good record. I think it's some of my best writing. And I made it with the help of some really talented people, Joe Barisi, and some fantastic musicians. Some that I have known for years, and others that I have never played with before, and it was awesome.
Well, you sent people in a tizzy when they spotted you with Duff. The internet went insane. Duff invited me to be a part of a happy birthday performance, Satisfied Mind, for Jimmy Carter, and that was really fun to do. Can I ask you, because I'm fascinated by the songwriting process, this isn't your first solo record, and so you've always juggled Alice and your solo stuff. What makes a song that you come up with, the idea, the lyrics, the melody, the riff, whatever it is, what makes you go, okay, this is for Alice and this is for me? How do you decide? Is it a different writing process?
The process is pretty much the same. I mean, the difference is the people who I record the song with. So, if you take any song off of, technically Buggy Depot, Sean Kinney played on all of that record, and Mike Inez played on a couple of tracks. So there still was some heavy Alice involvement in that record, but it's really just the time. We were off and we weren't doing anything, and I was planning on doing a record. So that's really what makes it a Cantrell record. If we were hanging out as Alice and I had come up with that particular song and we played on it, it would be an Alice in Chains song, written by Jerry Cantrell. So, it's pretty much the players that make the difference. The process kind of remains the same,
Do you work on these songs on an acoustic first, or do you write them electric first? Where do the riffs come from?
I don't know where they come from, but I'm glad they keep coming. And I've learned over the years that when they do come, it's a good idea to record them because they go away, So in the old days, it was like a Tascam 4-track or a little handheld mini cassette player. Nowadays, you can just sing it into your phone or play it into your phone or computer. So, and you were talking about the process. The process for me is whenever they come, whenever a good idea comes, you put it in the file, and I kind of collect ideas as I go, and then when I get motivated to actually start doing a project, then I start kind of rifling through all that stuff, and then you can always count on the fact that some things will happen spontaneously during the process as well. But, over a period of months and years of collecting riffs and ideas, there's a lot to work with there. And this record is a result of that same process I've used for all of the records that I've been involved with. It's about 3 or 4 months of demoing, working songs up, so that when I do walk into the studio with whoever I'm walking into the studio with, I've got some songs that I feel really strongly about and that I think are good, or some ideas that I think could be made into something good.
Have you ever gotten an idea for a riff or a song in a very strange or inopportune place that you just get inspired like a lightning bolt, and then what do? Like sing them in your head until you can get to your recorder and get them down?
I do, actually, and I can give you a really good example of that. I've had some issues with my shoulders, just kind of repetitive motion injuries that I've kind of acquired over the years, and had a labrum repair and on my right shoulder at the time. That was previous to the Devil Put Dinosaurs Here album, and I was all slinged up and I couldn't play guitar, but I kept hearing this riff in my head, and it was the opening riff for Stone. So I think I have a recording of me singing it into the phone. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. So that's how I recorded a guitar riff with my mouth. Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to talk to a lot of guitarists lately. Most recently, I talked to John Five, and I've been having a lot of conversations about guitar tone. And of course, it's like a fingerprint. Everyone's is different. What do you attribute your tone to? Where does it come from for you? Is it your hands?
Yeah, it really is, and I think you probably heard that from most players. Gear does play a role. Guitars and amps and effects have a sound, and some guitar players can use them as an identifiable sound, but it really comes from your skin. It comes from your fingers, man.
I also had the fortunate incident to speak with the lovely Nancy Wilson, and she told me something amazing, that when grunge really hit, and of course it's a big conversation right now because of all the big 30th anniversaries of albums this year, she told me she was so taken aback by how well respected Hart was in the grunge community, because she kind of felt like she wouldn't fit in.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there are local heroes and some of the greatest songwriters and singers, in the history of rock and roll period. And we considered them ours, so they were always a signpost. And I think maybe that's a natural feeling, like with the younger generation, and going through life and getting a little bit older and having a long career, there's always a fresh crop of new talented people coming up, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And if you're lucky enough to stick around long enough, you get to see all these younger bands coming up, and you get to make friends with them, just like you, when you were a kid, you got to make friends with some of your heroes. You were talking about guitar tone, and Eddie Van Halen was that for me, like somebody I really looked up to and made friends with. And he would come on our stage in sound checks, and he would plug into my amp, and he's playing through my amp and my guitar, but he sounds like Eddie Van Halen. And conversely, I would do the same. I'd plug into his stuff. I didn't sound like him. I sounded like me. But, Ann and Nancy are, they're legendary. They're some of the best, and they're just great people. And I'm proud to call them friends.
With all of the focus on the albums that came out right around this time 30 years ago, there's that whole conversation about the transition from like the 80s metal and the early 90s metal into grunge. And Dee Snider told me recently that the people that were so surprised by the fact that like that heavy metal stuff was just persona non grata, the people that were surprised the most were the grunge artists, because that was the music that you guys grew up inspired by.
Sure. Yeah. I love all the metal stuff of the 80s, and I was heavily influenced by, not only the artists that we talked about, like Van Halen and Hart, but like a ton of like English metal, all the Maiden and Priest and Scorpions and UFO and Thin Lizzy. Loved all that stuff, and still do. And music changes. it changes, but good things last, and all of those bands made classic records, era defining and really influential on me and all the rock players of our generation,
It's a testament to the passion of the rock audience too, because a lot of those bands you just rattled off are releasing new music. I mean, Maiden just came out with a new album. The Scorpions have been working on a new record. It's unbelievable the longevity of career that's possible in rock and roll.
Yep, and we just did some shows a few years ago in South America with Judas Priest, so those guys are still rocking too. I'm really lucky to still be and thankful and grateful to be able to have the opportunity to still be creating music that I care about and that people want to listen to 34 years in. Those bands we were just talking to give me a lot of inspiration that it can go further. So we'll see how far it goes.
The conversation about Seattle brought up a name that I was ashamed, especially as a woman, that I had never heard. And I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple different musicians from the Pacific Northwest about her, and I wanted to get your take. I was shocked that I had never heard of Tina Bell before.
Oh, Bam Bam, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I was really interested to talk to you because with all of the music that's come out of Seattle, especially when it comes to grunge, why have I not heard of Bam Bam? Until recently.
Well, there's quite a few bands that were around during that whole thing, and I don't know if our attention spans are so short that we can only focus on a couple of things at a time. You know what I mean? But it was a really rich community of artists in the Northwest, and during that particular period of time that were all very vibrant and part of the scene.
You're such a prolific songwriter, and I have started asking songwriters this question, A, because I'm fascinated by the process because I can't do it, and B, because I can't wait for your answer. So I'll ask you, as a songwriter, can you give me an example or two of songs that are so well crafted that you covet them and say, oh, I wish I wrote that song by any artist of any genre, but I want you to explain why it's such a good example of songwriting?
Oh God. I could name 1,000, Crazy on You, Magic Man, Barracuda, any three of those, I wish I wrote those songs, using Heart as an example. It's just, there's nothing like them, it's an identifiable thing. It makes you feel something, songwriting is kind of an ethereal thing, but it takes a little bit of magic, a lot of hard work and some luck, to fall into it. And it's also, being a writer, and being like the main writer in my band, it still requires everybody to elevate that. It's not just the writer, I'm part of a really great band and a group of guys that took that not only were writers themselves and wrote some great stuff. We all, as a group, take that material and we elevate it just by what everybody else puts into it. I don't know. That's the best way I could put it, I guess.
Can good songs be written when the songwriter is happy? Or do all songs have to be inspired by some kind of struggle?
I think all songs have to be inspired by an emotion, whatever the emotion is. Something that makes you feel or think or experience or whatever, and you're able to write that down and record it and then perform it. Those are different levels of expertise. Not every writer is a performer. A lot of writers write for other people to perform. Some people are better performers than others. So to be able to do both, at a high level, is something that I've always aspired to be. Somebody that can write well and perform well, and but they're two completely different talents. Yeah.
Over the last 18 months or so, people have had the opportunity to pursue different hobbies and learn new things because they've actually had time to do it. For musicians, especially musicians like yourself that are usually out on the road for a lot of the time every year, did you learn anything new or pick up a new hobby or something besides working on this music for your new album? What else were you doing? Were you on the farm? What were you doing?
No, I wasn't on the farm. I was just kind of locked up in the house like everybody else during the last almost 2 years now. And like I said, I was lucky enough to have a lot of work to do on this record, so that kind of kept me busy.
You also had to prepare for football season, and I will preface this by saying that I am in New England. I was born and raised a Patriots fan. Send all the venom my way that you feel necessary. But tell me what you think is going to happen this season in the league. Because I know you're into football, and you and I have talked about this in the past. You know your stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of the Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. And they both were able to get a win to start the season. That's always a good sign. It's good to see people in seats, and I was actually able to attend a game last weekend in Las Vegas. I went out to I was a little bit of shock, being around that many people, but brought the mask and had a really good time. It was a crazy game. I mean, it was like everything that could happen did happen, and it went right down to the wire in overtime. So that was a pretty amazing game to have been my first experience at a live game in a couple of years. So I'm gonna attempt to go to the Seahawks game this weekend as well with my friend Tyler Bates, who is a Titans fan. The Seahawks play the Titans, so that's gonna be interesting. One of us is gonna be very happy, and one of us is gonna be pretty pissed.
Well, it's.
I hope I'm the happy one. Yeah.
It seems like whether it's a rock show or a football game, fans are just so excited to be able to go to this stuff. I mean, that video of the Virginia Tech game with Enter Sandman that's been going around the internet because it actually got measured like an earthquake on a seismograph. I mean, that's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, Seattle's a great place to see a game too. And, we've set a few noise records there ourselves between Kansas City and they, in all fairness, Kansas City Chiefs are a great fan base, and they've got an amazing team, but they got about 10,000 plus more seats than Seattle, but we still compete with them for noise as one of the loudest venues in the NFL. So I'll be there doing my best to help create a little earthquake event with our voices this Sunday.
Towards the end of October, they are going to induct the class of 2021 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And every time the nominations come out and every time the class gets announced, there's all of this argument and debate about whether it matters. Obviously people getting upset over who gets nominated. You've been part of induction ceremonies before. What's your take on this whole thing?
Well, it's unfortunate that more people can't get in every year. I think this should be that way. That way, there wouldn't be so many people that are left out every year. But I get the whole idea behind it, and it's really, it's an honor to have anybody or your community, the music community or fans recognize your work. And so I've been a part of or around a few friends. I was able to partake in Heart's performance when they were inducted and actually play a song with them, which I can't believe I got to do, but Ann asked me to be a part of it. And I got up and played a tune with him. But I think the feeling is probably universal. I saw it with Rush as well. I think maybe, you have it doesn't make your career. It's not something you're going to hang your hat on. You've already created your career, and you've already had a body of work that's resonated with people for years. So it's just a nice little feather in the cap. But actually, when it actually happens, it's kind of cool to see the kind of reaction, that they have to it. So, it's a cool thing, like I say, it's not going to make or break your career, but it's a nice thing to be recognized always, for your work. And there's so many artists and that deserve to be recognized, that aren't in there.
Yeah, the list is long. I mean, Maiden didn't get in this year, and we were talking about them earlier. It's like Iron Maiden needs to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The end of October is also going to bring the release of your new solo album, Brighton. Did you pick that time of the year because you're a Halloween guy? Are you a Halloween guy?
I am a Halloween guy, but I didn't pick it to be near Halloween, but it's kind of a cool coincidence because it's probably one of my two top favorite holidays. One is the 4th. I get to be a pyro for a day and blow stuff up. And the other is Halloween, where you get to dress up like somebody else. So that's always fun. Yeah.
Please tell me you're not the one lighting off the fireworks. Your fingers are very important, Jerry Cantrell.
No, I'm that guy. I'm the guy that's blowing it up. Yeah. I ask anybody that knows me, and I do a proper send off to the 4th. Yeah.
I said the same thing about Dimebag Darrell with all those videos of him lighting off bottle rockets. I'm like, you guys are guitar players. You should not be holding explosives with your fingers.
We probably shouldn't, but rock and roll is getting into rock and roll isn't a safe business anyway. So we're known to take a chance or two here or there.
I talked to John Five. He told me an incredibly horrifying story of when he was young and what his mom dressed him up as Halloween. He's a Halloween person. I am. I think a lot of people in rock are. What were some of your most epic costumes when you were a kid?
When I was a kid?
Like his mom dressed him up as a hooker when he was a kid and sent him to school, and he won best costume.
That's great. I think my mom was pretty creative. She made like half my clothes, and she was just kind of like a hobbyist and a seamstress, and just was kind of a arty, kind of do-it-yourself, hands-on person. So she made me into a robot one year, and she took like some cardboard boxes, and made me a little cardboard box body, and then my arms and my legs were like that kind of hosing that goes behind a dryer, and painted them all silver. It was awesome. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite childhood costumes. She handmade it. Yeah.
Did you get your love of music and your exposure to rock and roll from your parents?
Sure. Yeah. And my friends. Like most kids, you'll meet a few friends who have a really good collection of music, or like somebody who's got a really badass stereo. It's like the kid with the car, you want to hang out with him, or her. And, but my mother was, she played organ and she sang, and she really appreciated music. Both my parents were country music fans. And so they were, that was always playing in the background or in the car, and, we always had, Lawrence Welk, or like the Grammys, or American Bandstand. Also, any sort of TV show that had something to do with music was always on. So, music was celebrated in our house for sure.
Well, you're getting ready to go on the road in the spring of 2022. Maybe you need to pack a bubble machine like Lawrence Welk, because I don't think you've ever done that.
That would be kind of interesting. Without, Gore's got the jizz, and Ramstein's got the bubble. Well, they kind of do a foamy kind of thing, but I could do the straight bubbles. Yeah. Okay. All right. Bubble machine. Let's do it.
You're headed out on the road to support Brighton, which comes out on October 29th. I've also read recently that you've talked about being open to doing dates with Alice next year. What does 2022 look like for you, schedule-wise?
I think it's going to be pretty busy. We obviously have been off. We'll have been off for 2 years as well, Alice. So we'd like to get in front of some people too. So I'm not sure that we'll be doing a record or anything next year, but we would like to get on the road and do some shows. So it'll probably be a mix of both for me.
Before I let you go, you've got your music involved with a ton of movies and stuff. Over the last 18, 20 months, when the industry has been kind of locked down, there's a lot coming out. Music, movies in 2022. Are you working on any more film soundtrack stuff?
Not at the moment, but I'm always open to it. I love the partnership and marriage of music and film. I think they're both really integral in telling a story, in creating a mood. The score of a movie and songs in general at particular parts, it makes the film, and I'm fascinated by all of that. Filmmaking, acting, music, soundtracks, always have been. So I'd love to do more.
It seems like rock and roll is so very well represented when it comes to film, whether it's Zombie or Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I mean, there's just so many rock musicians that have found a way to kind of navigate the film industry as well, more so than any other genre. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I think that music is an emotive expression, and if you're talking about filmmaking, that's the whole point, is trying to set the mood for a scene, to add some extra commentary to it without dialogue, and rock and roll's got plenty of that, plenty of power, and it also comes in a lot of different forms, so.
And finally, rock and roll also pairs well with sports. Is this the year AC/DC is going to get to play the Super Bowl halftime show, Jerry Cantrell? Is it going to happen?
I don't know, but I'd sure like to see that happen. I'd be there, especially if the Hawks or the Steelers are in it.
Well, I would go if the Pats make it in. So I'm just going to...
There you go.
We're rebuilding right now, but we got a lot of young talent, and I'm just, everybody said that when Tom Brady left that everybody would jump off the Patriots bandwagon, and I'm just saying, lifelong Pats fan, we're in it for the long haul, Tom Brady or not, although...
You guys got Bill Belichick, he's pretty much one of the greatest coaches of all time, and you had Tom Brady, which is pretty much the greatest quarterback of all time. That was a good run. You still got Bill. He'll figure it out. Every team goes through a rebuilding process, but if you've got him at the helm, it'll probably be a much quicker process than somebody else. Yeah.
I got to go to the Super Bowl in Jacksonville and see my team play and win in the Super Bowl and see a freaking Beatle in the halftime show. Like,
there you go.
It doesn't get any better than that.
That's pretty great.
Although it would be nice to see AC/DC finally. I mean, you can't go to a football game and not hear AC/DC. They need to play the halftime show.
I'm with you on that. I always like watching the Patriots games because whoever's running the music at that stadium, is it still Gillette?
Yes, it is.
The stadium?
Yep.
Okay. Whoever's running the music at Gillette always plays Alice, and I keep an eye on that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good thing.
You got a lot of fans in Boston, Jerry. We love you. We always have. We're a very tribal city, and when we get our teeth into something, we don't let it go.
Yeah, and you like your rock, and we like you.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Jerry. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on the new record, and I can't wait to see you on the tour next year.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on.
There he is, the one and only Jerry Cantrell, and the next time I see him live, he better have a freaking bubble machine. His new album, Brighton, comes out on October 29th. Check the show notes of this podcast to get all the details on the album. You can also find Jerry online and find Alice in Chains online as well. Check out the corresponding playlist that has got all of the music that we talked about in this episode. Special thanks to our sponsor of this week's episode, Digital Federal Credit Union at dcu.org. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss anything from the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the Sit Rep, which is all of your rock news, music headlines, and industry info in less than 5 minutes. And you never know when you can expect a bonus episode, like October 1st surprise call from Dean DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my Facebook page for my video show called Cocktails in the War Room. There's details on that, my blog, my events calendar, and the official Mistress Carrie online store at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.